I'm Jen, and ever since I moved in here, I've been wondering what this mailbox is all about. I'm not talking about the one on my house, but the one in the forest. My house, is in the middle of a small clump of woods. In the middle of these woods, there's a driveway and a mailbox nailed to an old oak tree. There wasn't another house to be seen for miles around, and according to people in the neighboring town, there never had been a house here either. But what the heck, it was just a stupid mailbox. I had completely different worries on my mind. I could afford the house on my own, but I still missed him. It's sad that everything turned out the way it did. On the way to work, I thought about calling Mike and maybe giving it another go. But then I remembered all the arguments and his nagging. "We can't do this, Jens," over and over again. I didn't want to be in stupid arguments all the time. I just wanted to live my life in peace. Now, at work, I answered pointless emails and wrote invoices all day without meeting a soul. So as I got into my SUV to drive home, like I did every night, it suddenly started thundering. Somehow that worried me. The drive home was long, just under an hour, but I was happy to put up with that if it meant some peace and quiet on the drive. After just a few minutes, I couldn't get any signal on the radio. Spotify wasn't working either, and mobile internet, practically non-existent here in the middle of nowhere. I sure wish I'd remembered to download that stupid playlist. Driving along, the feeling of being watched suddenly came over me. It felt like someone was sitting in the back seat and staring at me. Of course, no one was there, but the feeling of being watched suddenly came over me. It felt like someone was sitting in the back seat and staring at me. Of course, no one was there, but the feeling was still there, and it surrounded me more and more. It felt as if I could see the shadows in the trees that surrounded me, as if they were all looking at me, just waiting to attack me. So there's a lightning strike, which was probably only a few hundred yards away, and it lit up the whole area, scared the hell out of me. The street was so brightly lit for a moment that I could clearly see that mailbox on that tree at the side of the road. Of course, the lightning strike had to happen right here. What a stupid coincidence. A few minutes later, I was home and immediately realized when I got there that the power was out. Wonderful. Well, what the hell, I thought to myself, and I had a large glass of whiskey. Now, I usually drank it with Coke, but I kept that Coke down in the cellar, and I didn't want to go down there. One glass turned into 2 glasses, then 3 glasses, 4 glasses. At some point, the bottle was empty, and I fell asleep. The next day, things started off all right. Everything was pretty uneventful. There was no thunderstorm on the drive home from work either. But then I drove past the mailbox. I don't know. I had a strong urge to stop and run over to it. I felt like it was calling me. When I realized that I had actually slowed down to about 10 miles an hour, I got scared and stepped on it and sped up again. Whether it was just curiosity or whether there was more to this desire, I couldn't tell at the time. Today, I was happy to be home and I fell asleep without drinking myself senseless. That was progress. But it hadn't done me any good. I was having terrible nightmares. One of them was particularly striking. The doorbell rang and I opened it. Carl, the mailman, was standing outside, but his face was eaten away by maggots. His clothes were tattered and dirty and his eyes were a deep black. "You've got mail," he said. I wanted to take the letters, but he didn't have any with him. "You've got mail," he shouted angrily. I didn't know what to do. I just stared at his pitted face and couldn't make a sound. As nightmares sometimes do, I was frozen. "You've got mail. Open your fucking mail." As he jumped toward me, I thankfully woke up. My heart was beating fast and I was drenched in sweat. I got in the shower and stood there and decided I just got to forget this dream. And I managed to do that until about lunchtime that day. Nightmares usually have some kind of meaning, right? But what was this one trying to tell me? That I should tip the mailman? That he was sick? I had no idea. Well, I had no idea, at least until I made my way home. Just before I got there, I was overcome by a strange feeling, as if I needed something urgently. I really wanted to open the mailbox. It seemed to be calling me, and I actually stopped this time. What was in it? I went over to the old oak tree and examined it. It was at least 100 years old, but the red flag, signaling that there was mail inside, was still up. I felt so ridiculous. I just wanted to end this, so I opened the stupid thing and found a letter inside, old and yellowed, no sender, no addressee. I opened the envelope. Remember our agreement before I get angry. The writing was already half faded, and the letter had obviously been lying there for years. Nevertheless, the message sent shivers down my spine. It was as if the message was addressed to me. When I got home, I took a big drink of water. I could have gotten a bottle from the cellar, but I didn't want to go down there, so I drank from the tap. As I watched TV, I wondered who the message was addressed to and what had happened. Maybe it was about a business deal, or even a robbery, and one of the thieves didn't want to share the loot. Whatever the case, I was glad that the stupid mailbox had now disappeared from my thoughts. This time, and this night, I didn't have any nightmares, and I slept really well. As usual, I got ready for work in the morning. On my way out, I closed the cellar door. I didn't know why it was open, but I didn't care. No 10 horses could get me down there. The day at work was uneventful as usual, and that was nice. Others might find it monotonous, but I liked it. No bullying, no insults, and no stares. No people. That's exactly how I wanted it to be. My inner peace lasted until I was driving through the forest again and suddenly had to brake at high speed. I was 100% sure that I had left it open, but what was this all about? Is someone playing a game here? The mailbox was closed again, and the red flag was up again. Either I was losing my mind or someone was playing a nasty trick on me. I had to find out, so I backed up a few meters and walked over to the mailbox. My heart was thumping as I was about to open it again, and there was another letter inside. I didn't hesitate this time, and I opened that envelope too. Come down at last. You can't break this agreement. My body was trembling. My mind too, if that was possible. For a moment, I felt torn out of reality, but I quickly regained my composure. I don't know who it was, but someone was playing me badly. Maybe it was even Mike. Maybe he resented the fact that I'd moved in here alone. Or he was there for something else. Was there more to it? I didn't want to dwell on that, so I got back in the car and drove home. I immediately noticed that the cellar door was open again. This time, I knew I had closed it. I had to go downstairs. I had to see what was waiting for me there, even if it was to meet the devil himself down there. Slowly, I descended step by step. The light wasn't broken, but the lamp only provided a very meager light. The cellar was very small, so I immediately had the whole horrible scene in view. Mike was lying in the middle of the room. His hands and feet were nailed into the floor, right on the edge of a pentagram that had obviously been drawn on the floor with blood. 6 knives were stuck in his upper body. It was the most horrible sight I had ever had to endure in my life. The man I loved, tortured to death. So you remembered. Good thing I didn't have to force you to keep your word. Something not out of this world spoke through my partner's dead, lifeless body. I was so startled that I fell on the seat of my pants. But he was right. I remembered now. I remembered the bad feelings that had built up inside me. Of all the years I'd been bullied, insulted, and beaten, and spat on, of the breakup with Mike, how I moved into this house alone, and that I had met the demon here in the basement. The deal was simple. I get peace, a quiet life, In return, the demon would get my body and my soul after a year. A catalyst was needed to carry out the deal. That was the person I loved the most. He didn't understand when I lured him into the basement and performed the ritual. Yes, I remember. Is it time now? Yes, it's that time. In fact, you're 2 weeks overdue. Is it going to be bad? Not for me. And you should consider yourself lucky. We have big plans in this world, and you have a front row seat. As soon as the man of peace has finished his work and the princes of hell have been freed, it's game on. Now open up and offer no resistance. The nameless demon entered me. I could feel it. I was no longer Jen's. I was someone else. Soon he would have full control. And I realized, what have I done?
Hey, horror fans, want to learn more about the rise of the demon lords? Then subscribe and click on the next video.